Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Student First, Athlete Second IG Live. I am your host, David Watts, and this week we're coming live from Maui in the state of Hawaii. So we're really excited about our guest. We see him just hopping on. We'll be having Mr. Lorenzo Alexander joining us today. So thank you all for joining us every week. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. So Mr. Alexander is hopping on right now, and we are going to be admitting him. There he is.
Hey, what's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I appreciate you. Man, hey, and you wearing that cow hat. I think I need to cop one of these right here, bro.
Always, man. I always gotta represent.
No, man, I appreciate you. Hey, well, before we get started, I want to go over the intro, and then I want to go over my promo, and then we'll get started with the interview. So, everybody, thank you for joining another episode of the Student First, Athlete Second IG Live. I'm your host, David Watts. Week in and week out, every Wednesday at 5 p.m., our goal is to inform, inspire, and motivate young student athletes. Our goal is to have current student athletes, former student athletes, folks who are working in sports, talk about their stories, talk about their successes, talk about their failures, so we can sort of build sort of a game plan and a template for our young people that are coming up in sports today. So our featured guest today is none other than Mr. Lorenzo Alexander. Mr. Alexander was born and raised in Oakland, California. He was a decorated student athlete who earned All-American honors, All-State honors, basically everything honors as a defensive lineman at a St. Mary's High School in Berkeley, California. As one of the best defensive linemen to ever come out of the state of California, he decided to stay home, stay local, and play his college ball for the University of California Golden Bears. He was a 3-year starter, and after a very productive 4-year career as a student athlete in the Pac-10, he earned a bachelor's degree in
legal studies.
Legal studies, okay. From there, he went on to a very successful 15-year NFL career where he played on 6 different teams, earned 2 Pro Bowl berths, one in 2012 and one in 2016. That's amazing. 16 years, man. That is 15 years. That's amazing. Recently retired, in addition to being named Director of Player Development at Avalon Sports. He's been heavily involved as a young adult mentor and youth advocate with his ACES Foundation. This organization encourages young men and women to take pride in their community, serving as mentors to the youth in an attempt to create a positive cycle. A man of principle, a man of faith, a husband, a father, and a loyal servant to his family and his community. This brother wears many hats, okay? He wears these hats not only with style, but with class, with pride, and respect. I'm very honored to have him on the Student First, Athlete Second IG Live. Without any further ado, I introduce to you Mr. Lorenzo Alexander.
Now, I appreciate that, D. That's a great introduction, and it's really a pleasure for me to even be on here with you. Been seeing a lot of the great work that you've been doing, helping inform and educate our student athletes and their families, and so obviously that's a huge part of their development in order to achieve the success. So it's cool to be finally on your show and help you kind of continue to push the envelope with your mission in life and things that you're doing in a positive way. So appreciate you for that.
All good, man. All good. It's crazy, man, because, I was at Cal a little bit before you. I graduated in 2001. The 2000 season was the last, I believe you came the next following year.
Right.
And it was crazy because I was working on campus. I was a police officer up there. And I'd be playing ball like in the RSF, and when you'd be coming up there, I was
Yeah. Most people don't know I had a state championship at St. Mary's now too.
See?
Coming off the bench 6 man. So
we're gonna talk about that. So man, I appreciate you, man. Everybody that knows you, that knows of you, that's played with you, they rave up and down how, character, this, that, and the other. So this is a good thing, man. I'm really, really excited about this. Where are you tapping in from?
I'm actually out here in Paradise Valley. It's a suburb of Phoenix, Arizona. So this is where my family decided to settle down. I actually played here in 13, 14, and it's just a great spot as far as to raise a family. Cost of living is great. I wanted to come back to Cali, but them prices is crazy.
Man,
so
you find just where you're at, brother.
Yeah, I work too hard to give it back to them. So we try to extend this thing out with 4 kids, college, all those other things we got to pay for down the road. So
yeah,
I try to get back and still serve when I can, though, for sure.
Smart man. Well, man, let's start from the beginning, man. Like, talk to us about growing up in Oakland in the 80s.
Yeah.
Talk to us, man, because for those that don't know,
yeah. It was a crazy time. I think a lot of people know that because anytime you mention Oakland, they go, "Ooh, Oakland." What part of Oakland? You tell them East Oakland, I tell them 7th area and MacArthur over by Mills Hoagie, and people immediately understand the type of environment that I was a part of. And we got a ton of boys, that we grew up with. I was just with Chris Dixon today, who's also from Oakland. We were just kind of reminiscing, and even on Facebook recently, just reminiscing about growing up playing Babe Ruth. Going down to St. Cyril's, playing at Concordia Park, and in the middle of, and really maybe on the end of that crack epidemic and what that meant for an environment as far as its safety, the gang violence, just remembering playing baseball or down off of 66 in Hagen's Court, and, you have a drive-by, boom, 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 over in the village. Get down, get back up like it was nothing wrong, and keep playing the game. Over at Royal Park, the scoreboard being all shot up. And so that was the type of environment that we grew up in. But the great thing about it was that we had men, we had women, people volunteering their time to try and create a bubble for us as much as possible. Obviously, we lost a lot of great ones along the way. I actually have a cousin I grew up that was real tight, didn't have a great stable household, ended up serving 10 years. And we just have so many stories of just having a lot of great talented people, have so much promise, but the streets grabbed a lot of our young men. So I was very fortunate to come out. I had a lot of people make a lot of sacrifices, starting with my Uncle Steve, who filled in for my dad. My mom did a great job, working multiple jobs. My Uncle Steve really had that father figure, right? And if you're a parent, there is no way you can raise a man without having a man in that space. Serving. It doesn't have to be his dad, right? But a grandfather, or uncle,
absolutely,
a cousin, somebody, boy, whoever that is, has to be there to really help give example and guidance, because a woman can only do so much for so long, especially when I'm getting to my teenage years. I'm looking down at my mom, right? So there has to be that figure in that place. And so luckily I had that. I always tell people there's a very thin line between my cousin, who was just as gifted, probably more gifted than I was athletically and smart. Academically, dude was smart. It was somebody that I aspired to be like. I was younger than him by 2 years and really wanted to follow in his footsteps. There's a very thin line between where I ended up, having a 15-year NFL career, and then him taking his path. And it's very fragile, and I don't think people really understand that. So I'm very appreciative and thankful for my uncle taking the time, because he had his own family. He had 3 girls, but he treated me like one of my own, and I had 4 kids myself. And I just realized how much of a effort and sacrifice that he had to have his wife and girls make as well in order to include me in that process, right, when I'm not his responsibility. And so I'm very thankful, and it's really why I do a lot of the work I do now. But, I really enjoyed Oakland. It was a lot of talent. A lot of guys did get out doing great things. Kefense Hinton, a coach. Omar Young, a coach. I played with a ton of guys that ended up making it. Josh Shavens is doing a lot of great work, too. Played. Him and his brother went up to Washington State. I think Josh is an officer now. So we have a lot of great brothers that did make it, did overcome, or eventually matured and got doing the right thing. So I had a great childhood. Even though it was kind of plagued with a lot of those things that aren't ideal as far as the drugs and the gangs and stuff like that. But it made me appreciate it. I think it created that grit, that toughness that we talk about when you come out of the inner city, that I needed to persevere and face adversity. And then just be different than other people. I think when things are handed to you, when things are easy, when you're accustomed just to kind of going through life without some of these outside forces, you're not prepared as well. And not that I want that for my kids, but I do try to subject them to neighborhoods or to communities like that, so they understand what it's like to kind of grow up in that just a little bit. Obviously, I live in Paradise Valley. They won't never fully experience it, but there is, I think, a blessing that can come out of it, out of having some of that in your background.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there's that sense of like struggle. It can help when it's sort of guided. So I totally understand that. I can totally understand that. Anybody that knows you, that knows your story, since you've been growing up, knows how pivotal and important your mom has been, man. I can just remember being at the Cal games, her wearing her 76 jersey.
Yeah.
Like, talk a bit about your moms, man. I know she's got to be so proud. And man, it's just, of me not having a mom, man, it's just a blessing to see other cats, it's just, man, it's awesome to see.
Yeah. I mean, my mom is one of the best. I know everybody says that, but just what she did, sacrificing, as I said, being a parent now gives you so much more appreciation for what she did. I made that call like a lot of us do when you start having kids, like, Mom, thank you. And she did it by herself for the most part, taking care of me every single day, working multiple jobs, and never missed games. I mean, she was at all my Babe Ruth games, all my basketball games, AAU games growing up, was always at the Cal games. Whenever she could travel, we could afford it to get there. She was finding a way. If she had to drive, she was there. And she also created that structure and foundation for me as far as academically, and making sure that I understood that was important. That was first, regardless how talented I was or promise I had athletically. I remember a couple of times where I wasn't showing great character. I wasn't being a great student. And, she shut me down, put me on punishment, right? For a month. And like stuck to it. I talked back a lot when I grew up. I always wanted to be first. So she really helped structure me into the person I am today. It's not like I think oftentimes kids or people realize like, man, that dude is a good dude. And it's like I almost transformed and I was just here, right? I appeared and I was in this place, not really understanding that I was jacked up too. I was bent the wrong way. And the way my mom reared me and created that structure, and I had a reverence for her, a respect and love for her that, I was gonna fall in line, and if I didn't, I got the belt, So I'm a huge proponent of the belt, done in a loving way, and she loved me well with the belt when I was young, and she's not hesitant or shy to share that with folks either. And so she did a great job, I think all the way around, sacrificing, figuring out ways that I never felt like I went without, and providing that structure and opportunity and putting me in around the right people, coaches and friends, making sure that I was going in the path that was going to, allow me to be successful in life.
No, indeed, man. Indeed. I mean, it's so good to see, man. Just talking about your journey and growing up when you were in high school or possibly when you were in middle school, elementary school, who were some guys that were local in Oakland or in the surrounding area that you might have looked up to at the time, whether it be relatives, athletes,
I mean, I think, when I was in elementary school, one of the big names went to Fremont, and it was Frank Knight, right? And that team and what he was able to do. Jason Kidd was ahead of me, what he was able to do. I mentioned Josh and Fred Shavings. Yeah. Those guys I played with Tar Heels. I was maybe 3 or 4 years younger than them and saw what they were able to accomplish. And so and I knew them better than I knew, Jason Kidd and Frank Knight. They were actually a little closer. So those guys, I really was like, man, I want to be like that. I want to be hard. I want to be dominant. I want to play on the big stage, go to college. And I got to meet and know those young men. So those probably were the big names that were a little bit ahead of me. And it's countless other guys. I can name a ton of guys. DJ Williams is closer to my age, but he's a year ahead of me. Another guy that was just dominant, and obviously the number one player in the country during the time that we were in high school. Starting like as a sophomore over at De La Salle and doing what he was doing. And so I was blessed enough to have people within my bubble to have a measuring stick against how great I needed to be or wanted to be. Because I think oftentimes when we're in our bubbles, we only see the talent that is there, not realizing around the country what else is out there as far as how hard you got to work. And we always had some of the top tier national talent in the Bay Area that was from Oakland, from Richmond, people that you could see and touch or grew up with that I could use as a measuring stick as far as how I needed to compete, especially, obviously on the football field and stuff of that nature. So those guys really helped me raise the bar. And so that I was out there grinding, working on my craft and really trying to push myself to be the next great one in that, lineage of Bay Area talent that we had, especially during, you know, the late 2000s, early 2000s, where it was a lot of guys, even late, I would say late 90s too, a lot of guys coming out. Dante Marsh being another one of those guys I got to know and work with out of the West, right? So it's just a lot of guys, and I was thankful enough to be around them too. At some point, they crossed paths with me.
Yeah, man, there's so much tradition, man, in the city of Oakland, you know, in terms of athletes. I mean, all the way back to Bill Russell and Frank Robinson, rest in peace, man. It's amazing. I mean, I grew up in Silicon Valley. I grew up in Mountain View, you know, went to St. Francis, and we used to always play Skyline. So we used to play Eric Gardner and them, and man, when those cats used to get off the bus.
Right. They already had the game won, huh?
Man, they had the game won. Hey, they had the game won athletically, but when they came and played the private school out in, you know, in Northern California, out where we were, we took care of business. I hear you. So, man, so many young people watch these lives, man. And, you know, I guess one of the biggest things that I like to have my guests talk about is their experiences in high school as a student athlete. Like, if you could go back to tell your 15, 16, 17-year-old self one thing to do better when you were in high school, what would that be, brother? What would that be?
I think for me, I mean, I was always a solid student. My mom did a great job of, you know, putting me in a place to where even if I didn't want to, I was going to do school and do it well. And it came easy to me in some ways, but I think one thing that I wish I had a better grasp on, and I make sure my kids are doing now and developing, is reading, right? Yes. Because now you can educate yourself, you can read, comprehension, understand things. You don't have to rely on anybody telling you something without you having the ability to go figure it out, right? Yeah. And doing it at a high level, you know, because sometimes reading can be frustrating. You read it, man, I didn't get nothing out of that. Let me read that again. And, you know, so the earlier you can become a better reader and be able to comprehend and do it at a high level, become an elite reader, it's going to help you out in so many facets. Obviously, school is the most common. And when you get to college, it's going to help you with time management so you can be able to do your work at a high level. But you want to be a learner for life. Yeah. And reading is going to continue to allow you to do that, where you don't have to, you can see on the news, they're talking about this is happening over there, this is happening, this is where all these things came from, or whatever it may be. Well, okay, all right, that's what they talking. Let me go check this out and read some books, you know, and get in it to myself and figure out how other people's opinions and see how I feel about it, and then come to my own conclusion based off of stuff that I've kind of taught myself within the context of the world, right? And so I think that is probably the biggest thing, the biggest tool that you can have, because you need it on anything that you ever want to do in life. You know, even as an athlete, I got to be able to read and comprehend a playbook. I don't think people really understand, you know, a game plan every single week and be able to take those notes to the field so that you can think at a high level and play fast so you're not really thinking at all. Yeah. So that ability to read at a high level helps you in so many different areas of life, and it really doesn't matter what field you end up going into. You're always going to be able to do that. And then on the personal note, like I said before, just to become a life learner, and so you can educate yourself from different perspectives and be a part of hopefully a solution to come into, like, hey, have you thought about it like this, right? Yeah. Have you thought about it like this? And you can become a part of the conversation in a positive way from a place of at least having some fruit behind it, or some texture, right? Because I think a lot of people just say stuff without even having a substance to it or base to it, right? They just out of the wind blowing it and just saying
what they read on the internet. That's
right. With somebody who just, you know, typing something, right? It's not even a credited source. So, you know, it definitely helps you in so many different ways. So if you can start reading, and I know it's hard, it's still hard now because I didn't develop that at a young age. Yeah. And I'm actually going back to grad school. And so I really have to sit down and really focus. But if I had that, if I developed that skill at a higher rate, what I'm about to do in grad school would be much easier. And that's why I think it's so important, and why my kids are reading every day 30 minutes in the summer. And when they get home during the year, it's 20 minutes every single day, just to build that muscle, build that skill, because it's definitely going to be fruitful for them, and you know, as life continues for them.
Absolutely, man. Just like you said, just like when cats work out, they're building their body physically. Our brain is the most important muscle in our body.
Right.
So, you know, just in terms of like young people, especially young men of color, especially, like, we don't grow up reading.
Right. We don't. And I tell you this, man, I wish I'd have known this. One of the dopest tips you've given out so far was, hey, contact your teachers, your English teachers this upcoming year, and read the books over the summer. You can read at your own pace. You can develop that. Man, that's one of the dopest tips out there I've never seen anybody put out, because then when you get to the school year, you already have a base of what happened and what's going on. And so you'll reread it, but you don't have to get as in deep because you've already done the work, right? So you've already prepared yourself, and it saves time. It allows that process to be so much easier for you too. And you may actually fall in love with it because now you're not under this microscope of, hey, I got to play ball. I got to get this work done. I really don't want to do this work, right? You can do it in a time frame where it's more free and actually maybe fall in love with something that otherwise you may not have. So, and that's probably one of the dopest tips that you put out there so far.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you mentioning that, man. I mean, it's one of those things to where, I mean, you know, that's an academic thing, right? But just in terms of reading for pleasure, I always talk about this. It's a transferable skill. Those young people that read for pleasure, they do better on standardized tests. They write better when they're, you know, having to write essays. They hold better conversations. When they do have to read long novels for school, it's something that, you know, they've trained their brain and, you know, it's work, and, you know, they're able to comprehend information on a quicker basis. So the key is reading something that you enjoy reading about, whether it's a biography on Jay-Z or it's a book about becoming an entrepreneur or about football or whatever it is, young people. It's so, so important. And in the summer, it's the best time to do it. It's the best time to do it. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I'm going to get your address. And I'm known as the book man, bro. I just be sending cats books. So I'm going to send you a book. The thing that I wanted to mention to you, though, is this. You had mentioned you're going back to grad school. Yeah. I guarantee you this, because I talked to a lot of cats that, you know, that have gone back and either finished up their undergraduate degree or going back to get your master's degree. The second time you go around, it'll be much easier.
Oh, yeah. Well, my mind frame is different now, too, right? Because even though I was a good student, my mind frame, I still was focused on ball, right? I still was immature in a lot of ways. I'm choosing to go back at this point, and I'm actually going back to your point to something that I love and passion, and it's about life coaching, right? Help develop the next generation, help mentoring them. And so I'm going in this with a whole different perspective as far as what I need to do and what I'm trying to get out of it. So everything is going to be, okay, I may not necessarily like reading a summary, a 50-page summary, because I know where it's going to take me, right? I know the end goal. I know the process. I know the why I'm doing it. I'm going to indulge myself in it and really get into the nitty-gritty, even though I don't like the necessarily reading a 50-page summary. I don't think anybody does, right? Yeah. Like, nobody likes running gassers after practice, right? But you know that it's going to put you in a position to go out there and be in shape to play a game at a high level. And that's so, a great analogy. A lot of the things that we learn in sports, for whatever reason, we like to keep them in the context of our sport, right? In that box. Take all those lessons you learn and apply them to every aspect of your life. Because it is life, right? You know, you're talking about whether it's academics, whether it's talking about parenting, whether it's talking about relationships with your wife, whatever that may be, you know, in the workplace, all of those things, from leadership to accountability, to working through adversity, to working on some weaknesses that you may have. It applies in so many areas. And so as athletes, and especially as men, we like to keep it in that box, to your point, but we need to move it out. Make sure we use all those skills we learn in other places so we can be great individuals, great people. And then everything we touch, no matter what it is going to be fruitful.
Now that's huge, man. It's like we all know, or we all should know, how to compete. And I think, you know, you get to a certain level, you grow up playing at the park, you ain't gonna be no punk, you ain't no quit, you know, and that type of mentality has got to come into the classroom. Yeah. It has got to come into your relationships with your family, into your relationships as a parent, into your relationships at work, this, that, and the other, because like you said, you can't just put it in this box and say, okay, this is just athletics, because there's so much carryover. So I really appreciate you talking about that. Man, for those folks who are just joining us, welcome to the Student First, Athlete Second IG Live. Our featured guest, Mr. Lorenzo Alexander, 15-year NFL Pro Bowler here, is dropping dimes right here. So, you know, we're just talking about, you know, what young people should do, you know, at an early age and starter. He just talked about, have the suggestion of reading. Man, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Heading into the direction of college, man, you know, you stayed home, you stayed local, you know, you had a lot of fanfare, this, that, and the other. Like, what did you feel like you were the most prepared for as an 18-year-old freshman and the least prepared for going into Berkeley? Because I mean, it's
I don't know if I was prepared for any of it. I mean, honestly, I don't think you ever really prepared for the college life because now you have less guidance in a way, right? The structure is there, but now you're responsible. You're responsible to indulge in that structure, right? Nobody's chasing after you. Your mom is not right there making sure you're in the bed. You know, you can go out and hang out and do whatever you need to do. And as a 18-year-old, I just wasn't mature enough or in a place to where I was making the smartest decisions, right? You know, I had a coach later in life talk about CDC. You know, he called it, we have choices, decisions, and consequences. And as an 18-year-old, you know, I have a lot of choices every single day that I'm going to make, right? What is going to be my decision with those and the consequences I was living? And I wasn't making great decisions. And so my consequences, you know, for me, eventually became not getting drafted. And so for me, it was hard to make the transition. I could always work hard as far as football. But again, I like I said, for a long time, I'm speaking from my own truth when I say don't leave stuff in the box at work or at football practice, right? And that's, even though I was a good student and had the grades, I still left a lot of who I was at football. The discipline, the hard work, the accountability, the leadership. Once I stepped out of that, especially in my social life, you know, as far as whether it was drinking, how it related to women, the partying, none of that existed in that part of my life. And so I had this duality going on, and I'm fighting myself against I want over here. Okay, it looks like, oh man, this dude, I would love for him to marry my daughter. You know, the great leader, working out, pushing teammates. But over here in the dark, in the secret, when I'm hanging out, it looks way different. I know I don't marry my daughters now, right? Not that Lorenzo at 18. So it took a long time for me to understand that, and that came with great mentors in my life, other peers that I saw how they were living before I could really start marrying my private and public life, right? This duality of who I'm going to present to you and then what I'm going to do when nobody's looking. It really started to marry up, and that's when, you know, I really started having a lot of success on and off the field as far as community work, what I'm doing, you know, in the league later on. But yeah, college was a struggle for me. Hindsight 2020, looking back at it, I didn't maximize it at all. I mean, I didn't know how to do school. I was the first one to go. And so I just kind of fell into what culture told me I should be, you know, this job. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to school because I know it's important and do it and pass. But I wasn't really investing myself in it. You know, some classes here that I really liked. But overall, when I go back, if I was to grade myself, what I was doing as a student at Berkeley and all the resources and great people that was up there from other students to professors, I mean, I failed that. I didn't really engage anybody on that type of level of relationship, trying to get to know them and why are you professor? What are you doing? And how can, you know, I become and allow you to mentor me in this academic space so maybe I can do something when I'm done with ball. You know, I was all in on football and really didn't invest the way I should have on the academic side, and, you know, almost disqualified myself. Well, I did disqualify myself from going to grad school, but because I figured it out through football and having other great people help me become a better man through life experiences, you know, I was restored in a lot of ways to where I got into Cal for grad school. I'm going to GCU, but I was able to get into Cal even though I didn't have a 3.0.
Got it.
My undergrad didn't give me access. I had to go work 15 more years to do something where if I could have took advantage of it during the time, right? But everybody's not going to be, I think most people think they're going to get those 15 years. Everybody doesn't get it. So I was blessed in a lot of ways to be able to earn it back, right? So if you're a young student athlete, listen to this. Please take advantage of that academic experience of whatever institution that you end up in. I already know you're going to take care of ball, right? But and really embrace the experience of getting to know your classmates, getting to know their culture, how they go about work, getting to know your instructors on a personal level, maybe ask one to be your mentor and feel that you may be interested in, and really leverage who you are and in that space so that you can develop your whole self, because everybody's not going to be afforded. I know everybody thinks they're going to go to the league or play in the league for a long time. That is not the reality. I was blessed by God and had some favor on my life that it's not guaranteed for everybody. So don't say, well, this dude did it, so I'm going to do it that way. Don't do it the way I did it. And I think that's one of the biggest things I would tell myself as a younger man is really invest yourself in the academic experience at Cal, like you did with football. And but you have to understand something has to give, right? And I think as young men and as young women, we don't see all the time the big picture. And so we don't want to give up that social life. But if you want to get to where you want to, you have to invest now so you can maybe enjoy life a little bit later. Yeah,
man. I mean, you said so much in there, man. I just get emotional thinking about it, man, because I appreciate you being transparent. But, you know, to be quite honest with you, man, a lot of us left stuff on the table, man.
Yeah.
And you know, you mentioned it. You were first generation college student graduate. So was I. A lot of us were. It was our first time.
Yeah.
Hey, we were the test dummies, so to speak, right? And we were playing ball, doing that, and the other. So it was one of those things, like I always say, like, it's because we had our opportunity and we had our time, and this is why we do things like this, like the Student Second Live, is so we can give the game away.
Right. So that's what it's all about. It's all about paying it forward and giving it back. Because we have people that allow me to get there. So now that I've experienced it, I mean, you'd be selfish to hold it on to yourself. And so, to your point, giving it back through opportunities like this, through podcasts. I know you constantly posting and working with young men and women in person as well. You know, I have an opportunity to work with Cal and some of their DIB, diversity, inclusion, and equity initiatives, and trying to make sure that the institution is also what we're talking about. They're also trying to provide and structure for our young people as well, and not just use them up as athletes and then be done, but also make sure that they are encouraging fruitful academic experiences as well, right? Internships, all those type of things outside of whatever sport that you decide to play. And so, and we have to, because I learned a lot, and, you know, my kids are going to benefit from it, but I want to be able to impact so many other people.
Indeed.
Just with the voice and experience. And, you know, obviously this platform allows me to do that.
Indeed. Man, greatest moment as a Cal Bear, man.
Wow. It had to be by far beating USC triple overtime at home. And that's the year they won the national championship too. And we were their only loss. So that was a great game to be able to do that. I mean, I just remember everybody rushing down onto the field. I played well that game. That was the Aaron Rodgers game, I think, when he took over for Reggie. And that was kind of his coming out party and what he was and who he was going to be. So there was a lot of history, a lot of great players in that game on both sides that went on to play in the NFL for a long time. And so that was one of the top ones ever. You know, some people may say it was the Holiday Bowl, but that was more of a bittersweet moment because we were number 5 in the country that year. And we should have been in the Rose Bowl, but old Texas kind of did it dirty. And some way we were number 5, but we were outside of all of the big time bowl games that year. So, but hey, it is what it is. We didn't beat SC that year either. My man slipped. Jonathan McCollum slipped for the touchdown to go ahead. But hey, it's part of it, right? You learn some adversity, but it was some great times back at Cal, especially on the football field.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Jonathan, man. Good dude.
Yeah, real good dude, man.
Man, like, it's so crazy, man, because, you know, just being done and seeing you guys, the tradition with Tedford was completely different, bro. Like, and being on campus, I mean, I was at that USC game in uniform, you know what I'm saying, on the sidelines, and just seeing you guys, and a lot of the guys that were seniors, you were upperclassmen, but you weren't there when we had graduated, man. It was tough times under Homo.
Oh, I had a Homo year. Believe me, I had the 1 and 11 year. That was 9/11, and our first game that year got canceled, and we actually had to play. Temple. Was it Temple? Temple. No. What's the other? Rutgers. We had to play Rutgers on Thanksgiving, and we were 0-10. I'm like, who wants to go cancel the game? I want to be at home Thanksgiving. I was a freshman. Nobody want to go to New Jersey and play a game. But you know, we went there, won, had our only win. But yeah, I believe me, and that alone right there, and I've seen it a couple more times since I've been on other teams, showed me, because the next year we were 8-6, same group of guys, right?
Yeah.
It comes down to, you know, leadership, right?
Yeah.
Are you able to galvanize the people around you and help them see a vision? And so that's why leadership is so important, because it can cut people either way. We've even seen that in our country politically, right? How important leadership is. And so it's not just this thing that, you know, coaches talk about or people talk about. It's something real, because you can have the same group of people but have a different leader and get an entire different outcome.
Yeah.
And so that's another reason why I try to get back and give the game away, because you want to kind of supercharge or streamline that process for our young men and women, especially in the community, to become great leaders, right? First in their household and then in the community, so that we can change a lot of the issues that we see that we don't like much quicker. Because if we have better leaders, it's going to shift, right?
Yeah.
You go from being 1-11 to being 8-6, and by the time I'm a senior, we're number 5 in the country. It was leadership. It was a culture change, and that's what it's all about. You can see it in sports. It's a microcosm of what we can do in the community on a much bigger scale. And so that's why a lot of those same principles, you know, I try to apply to just developing leaders in our community, because we see it in sports every year, everywhere you look. Coach change, man, it's the same team. How do you get to the championship? Leadership. So that's where it comes down to, having better leaders in the community. And we can even see that. You know, you go back to the Black Panther Party, right? What did they do? They attacked our leadership, because they understand the power in leaders.
Yeah.
We have a breakdown. So it's all about developing great leaders. And the only way you can do that is by educating them, giving them a support system, right? And walking them through this process to help them kind of streamline that process, so then they can go out there and make a positive impact and create that positive cycle that we're trying to do through the ACES Foundation.
Indeed, man. Indeed. I mean, you know, just talking about the Panthers and hearing that, and just like, you know, because I lived in Oakland for about 10 years, man.
Yeah.
Lived in the East, lived in the West, and then just hearing how it was systematically brought down, man. And man, I mean, that's a whole nother topic, bro.
Yeah.
Man, let's transition into the NFL experience, man. What was your welcome moment? Where you know, your first moment where you were like, I'm here. Whoa. I mean, you know, was it the draft? I mean,
well, I went undrafted, which was a hard 3 days. It was 2 days back then. I mean, Saturday, Sunday, you know, you're told that you're maybe supposed to get drafted in the 3rd or 4th round. I actually had a team call me and say, with the next pick, we're going to pick you. They picked somebody else. But I, you know, thankfully I still got picked up as a high priority free agent. A lot of guys don't even have that opportunity. Yeah. And I ended up in Carolina. I don't know if I ever, when I had that moment, I mean, because I didn't get to play, because my first 2 years was on practice squad. So 2005, you know, practice, get the look squad, special teams, boom. My 2006 year did the same thing, and that was the hardest year of my career, because I had Joe Gibbs, and I literally took every single rep that you could possibly take in a practice in the day of, when we had 2-a-days, when we practiced in pads, you know, Monday or Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 17 weeks. And I take every single rep. So that really, I guess in a lot of ways, that was my welcome moment.
Yeah.
This is the league. If you're on practice squad, you got to earn this. Nothing is given. I mean, I remember at times going home and literally crawling up the stairs to get to my bedroom, because I was just so broken down. So that was kind of my introduction into the league. And so I was really birthed under fire. And I think a lot of that I needed that to humble me and make me appreciate the things that I was able to accomplish later in life and grind. Because a lot of times, most of us, you know, when we talk about these kids today, these AAU kids, like we were never there. Like, we never felt ourselves or had an ego. And like, oh man, when I was coming, all I did was grind. But I was at a point, like I told you, when I was at Cal, I had this ego mind. I'm one of the best, you know, top in the country. You know, I was a freshman All-American. I'm a guy on campus. I'm this, that. And I didn't work where I needed to be. That really put me back to where I was grinding when I was trying to get on and get a scholarship, and put me back in that place of humility where I needed to be. Like, hey, you got to earn this, and you're going to have to grind if you want it. And if you don't, go home. If you do, you gotta endure this a little bit. So that was my welcome moment. Just the intensity just how much different it was. It was a very business atmosphere.
Yeah.
And it was hard for me. For me, I used to get migraines and headaches because I was so stressed out about the politics and being undrafted. And how do I overcome this? How do I work so hard? And so it wasn't a pretty, you know, it wasn't that, oh, I'll hold up the number one, you got drafted in the first round. It wasn't this Cinderella Disney type story for me, which was good because most of the guys that play in the league for a significant amount of time, and most of the guys in the league are guys that come from, you know, kind of from my end of the draft spectrum. Probably, you know, fourth round down, you know, third. It ain't first and second rounders because their entry level has been a little bit different. They've been given this lump sum of money and they let their guard down, which is everybody's natural. Oh, I made it. I'm paid. And you relax. You know, so I'm glad I came in the way I did because it allowed me to play 15 years. If I didn't come in that way, I probably would have, you know, burnt out of the league in probably 4 or 5 years just because my mentality, nothing had challenged me to where I needed to change enough to grow and be different in order to sustain something that I wanted to do for a long period of time. Yeah,
you outlasted a lot of guys that got drafted.
I always tell people, Thomas Davis was the first pick of the Carolina Panthers that year. Obviously, I went undrafted, and we both was. I think he just retired after this year. He played 16, I played 15, and by the end of the year, I think there might have been 5 or 6 guys still left in our class, and I'm not going to even count Aaron Rodgers because he's a quarterback. You can't even hit them no more. And LP Ladisor, who's a long snapper, actually played. I don't know if LP is still with Dallas or not, but he played at least 15 as well too. But I don't count him because he's a long snapper.
Exactly.
So it was really like 4 or 5 guys that were still in the league when I shut it down.
Wow, man. Hey, I call that the walk-on mentality, man. You always got something to prove. Man, that's big, man. Greatest accomplishment and greatest regret in the NFL.
Oh, as far as just the NFL, my greatest accomplishment, man, had to be the 2016 season going, for me personally, was the 12 and a half sacks. No. It's a couple of things. It's kind of hard. So I'll give you a couple of different categories. I got to split them up. I played a long time, all right? So 12 and a half years or year, it might have been it was 2016. I don't know what year that was in the league, but I had 12 and a half sacks. Went to the Pro Bowl, was an All-Pro that year, and got Pro Bowl MVP. That was probably my best individual year where I finally got an opportunity to play, you know, first, second, third down and not just be a special team. What my role was more than just being a special teams player and being a rotational player on defense. I got to play the entire game. And so I was able to show people, hey, I can play too, and don't just put me in this box. I would say above that, though, was being able to be the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee for 5 times for a couple of different teams, just to show, you know, the community side, you know, what I was trying to do. I wasn't just talking about it, but really being about it, because every team I was on, our teammates voted for it. And so they saw it. And we all know our peers are our biggest critics. And so if you just talking and you ain't doing it, they going to call you out and point you out. So obviously there was some continuity that I had changed from college, right? I wasn't living to this double lifestyle. To now I was living, breathing, everything I was doing for my family, to community, to ball, where they saw that and found fit to vote me 5 different times. And so those are probably my 2 biggest accomplishments. My biggest regret, I don't know. I left it all out there. I wish I could have won a Super Bowl, but I mean, that's a team accomplishment. That's not something that I can regret because I left it out there every time I tried. I'm fortunate enough. To be honest, I really don't have any regrets for my career-wise. I mean, my regrets would have been in college, where I didn't maximize the opportunity I had up at Cal as far as the way I was living. That would have been my regret. But I was able to correct that in the league. So I mean, I guess I didn't get a chance to correct that until like 2007. Sean Taylor passed. I wanted to make a shift in my life. I gave my life to Christ. But 2005, 2006, I still was kind of living much like I was living in college. So if that was my biggest regret, it would be on the personal side of things, not necessarily football. Got it.
Wow, man. I mean, to be able to say that, and, you know, for those that don't know, in terms of your career, you came in as a defensive lineman, 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Go out on the back end as as an outside linebacker, right?
Yeah, outside, inside, yep.
That takes a lot, man. I mean, talk about that
Yeah.
transformation. Like that doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. And I was actually talking to my boy about this the other day, Maurice Hall. He actually played it for Ohio State, and he's in movies. And we was just kind of conversating about just how could I tell my story and share with people, because it is uncommon. And for me, but when I went through it, I didn't think it was that special. I was doing what I needed to do, right?
Yeah.
I think, you know, we when we grow up and we imagine ourselves playing whatever sport that is, it's like, well, I want to play in the NFL. I want to play in the NBA. I want to play in the MLB. It wasn't, I want to be the starter. I want to make this much money, right? So for me, it was just about living out my dream. And so even though I made that transition, it was because I still wanted to play football. I was trying to figure out any way I needed to adapt in order to be on the field. And so I played multiple positions. I played D-end, D-tackle, tight end on offense. I played some guard, played special teams, right? Inside, outside linebacker, as you mentioned. I did a lot of things because I was trying to figure out a way to stay. I didn't care how it was. I didn't care how I achieved it. I just knew I wanted to play in whatever that took. And so I had to lose weight as they moved my positions. I had to transition. And that was it. It was either transition, pivot, make a pivot, right? Or die. We see that in business too, right?
Or get cut. Yeah.
Get cut. It's the same thing, right? We see that. People in the pandemic, you either pivoted or you lost your business, right? We see that when the market changed, right? We don't see any more blockbusters, right? They didn't pivot. So that concept, once again, is not just sports, but that was the mindset I had. What do you need me to do? Because I want to be here. I want to play this game. Oh, you want me to lose 20 pounds? All right, I'll lock down.
Got it.
I'll lose the weight. I'll be disciplined. I'll be regimented because I understood what I wanted to be and where I wanted to do, and remembering why I went undrafted, right? I said I wanted to achieve this goal of being drafted, but I didn't do the day-to-day things that I needed to do, dying to myself in order to achieve it. So I learned from it, thankfully, and was able to put in and again, I was around other great people, had a great nutritionist, a great trainer, people encouraging me, some teammates that kind of went along the journey with me, and I was able to do it. And I got married at the time, so my wife was cooking good meals for me. It wasn't all my own. I had a lot of great support, right? I had a lot of good people around me, and that's why relationships are just as important as far as having a vision and setting out to accomplish it, because you're going to need help along the way in order to achieve it.
Man, you said two things that got my mind thinking. The first thing was the example of Blockbuster. What a lot of people don't realize is Blockbuster had an opportunity to buy Netflix.
Right.
And they turned their nose at Netflix, and now look what happened.
Right.
Right, yeah. Look what happened.
Yeah.
The second thing is your story. I mean, at the time, hell, even now, you might not think it was incredible, this, that, and the other, but this is book worthy, bro. So
no, I appreciate it. Yeah.
I really do think in terms of being able to tell your story, to talk about the relationships, to have different chapters of this, that, and the other, man, this is something that you can leave for your kids, your grandkids, all the way down for everybody in the city of Oakland.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, I'm a definitely tell it. We got some things working on, like I mentioned, my guy, Maurice Hall.
Yeah.
We're in the process of coming up with a couple of different outlets and ways to tell my story and share it just for the betterment of people. And so be on the lookout for, we already kind of have a name we're working with. My nickname in the league was One Man Gang, right? And so my man Fred Smoot gave me that nickname because I could play all these different positions. He was like, man, you can play a game by yourself, man. You're a one-man gang. But in reality, we all know that none of us stand on our own 2 feet, right? I'm on tons of people's shoulders. So I'm actually going to call it One Man's Game, right? So I had a gang of people help me become One Man Gang, and who that person was when I retired back in 2019. And so it'll be just amount of a story about all the other people that helped me, just amount of it is about my story as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
Man, that's man. There's so much you can talk about, man. And you can have one chapter on the late Sean Taylor, bro. I mean, man, that's
right. That dude there was inspirational in so many ways. It was probably my first time, and I played with some other guys, but nobody had this intentionality about being great. And he was uber talented. And I think he had figured out along the way, I don't know if his dad, his upbringing or what, but he figured out he wanted to be great, and he wasn't going to rely solely on his God-given talent, because he was more gifted than anybody you've ever seen or walked next to or hung out with. But the dude had a champion spirit and competitive nature that was second to none. I mean, and he didn't care if it was in practice. I remember one time practicing, coming around, and we were running like a power, and I was on the look team, and I popped him pretty good. He said, oh, no, we're going to run that again. I'm like, oh, we just ran the play. No, we're going to run it again. All right. So I'm a young guy. I don't know what I'm getting myself into. Come around, running again. Bam! He comes like down and jacks me up. Like, he did not like to lose at all. And he worked out. It'd be 100 degrees. He had sweats on. He'd be in the hot room training. He used to run to practice. He just, every day, he maximized it in order to be the greatest football player he could be. And then the cool part that really jacked me up and really made me shift my life was that he was in the process of doing that as far as his personal life too. Yeah. And becoming a better father, a better partner, just a better human being overall. And then, you know, he gets murdered, and it's like, and at that time you're 24, you think you're invincible. I mean, you know, well, we good. I didn't do anything. That like just shook me up, because here goes this, we used to call him Beast, right? Man and Beast. And he's no longer here. You talking about the strongest cat in here ain't here no more? Yeah. It rocked my world to the core. And so that was one of the most pivotal personal moments as far as especially my relationship with Christ that I had in the NFL. But that dude, it's nobody that was like him that ever be like him ever again. Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that, man. Man, like, I know you started this well before your career ended, but man, talk to us about the ACES Foundation, man. Like, I've been seeing it, and I've contributed as much as I could in the past, and man, this is a beautiful thing. So talk about the origins of it. Talk about what you plan to do in the future. Where are we going with this? This is lovely, man.
Yeah, so it was birthed in 2008. You know, me, my mom, and my wife decided to do something for the community. You know, I was still fresh in the league, but wanted to use the platform of the NFL in order to serve the community that helped raise me. Again, right? One man's game. There's a lot of people that helped me be where I was at. I learned a lot of life lessons, had a lot of great resources, and I wanted to try to give that back to the next generation, because I had the structure, right? I had the blueprint of how you become successful. And so I wanted to use my organization and those resources in order to create that for other young people that may find themselves in similar situations, because we all know we're birthed with greatness, right? We all have a spirit of love, power, and a sound mind, and we've been given unique abilities and gifts from God. But how do we cultivate that, right? How do we protect that and help nurture that in an environment that a lot of times looks hopeless? And so I wanted to bring a little hope, a little light, and some structure. And the only way you can do that at high levels with people. And so just trying to help where I could, you know, whether it was, you know, doing youth football camps and talking to kids, doing backpack giveaways. We did some STEM community days where we actually come into a community, bring in health professionals, do some STEM labs with the kids. We've also done some programming and partnerships, because I'm also a firm believer, and this has probably been my biggest struggle with the organization as I played and I couldn't do, and now that I'm retired and why I'm going to life coaching so I can be more invested in it, is create sustainable programming where I'm actually hanging out with the kids and we're doing programming on a consistent basis. Because it's one thing for me to show up and say, hey, do X, Y, Z, and then you go back to your reality. Yeah, you may have heard some words, but it didn't impact you because it wasn't on a daily basis, right? Agreed. And so that's the kind of the part where I'm at, and we're in this transition. And I was able to do a little bit of this when I was in Buffalo by partnering with the Bell Center and Southport High School, where I just had those two main partnerships where I would go up, visit the kids, hang out. I took a group of kids to some colleges down in the D.C. area, and I really spent a lot of time cultivating those relationships so they get to see who I was. I would bring my kids around. They would see me as a parent, as a dad, you know, as a husband. And I was no longer this football player, but I was a dude that looked like them, that came from a similar upbringing that they can relate to and see themselves in, right? And so we broke down all that celebrity crap down, and they got to know me. And so that's where you see the most impact and the most fruitful change in young people's lives, is by spending that time. And it's not about impacting 1,000 kids, but if I can impact, you know, have an intimate relationship and know 20 to 25 kids' names and know their background and what they're doing and really walk with them through life. That's what it's about. So we're kind of in this transition period in order to continue to achieve those goals. Obviously, I'm here in Phoenix, so I'm primarily doing it here in Phoenix with a group over in South Phoenix. And then I have partnerships back in Oakland, Tristan George, Lamont Robinson, that are doing great work with Wheelo and we used to be Bay Area Seminoles. I think it might be Bay Area Bears now, doing great work. And so we're trying to support them and what they're doing because they're hands-on too. And so even though I can't be everywhere, we have collaborations, like-minded people trying to impact communities, different places. And so that's what the ACES Foundation is all about, right? Accountability, community, education, and sports, and trying to collaboratively do it together and not try to have all these one-offs all over the place.
Absolutely, because the one-offs, I mean, it's a temporary sort of like, inspiration.
Right.
It's but if that's all the cats can do, then that's fine. But,
right. No, it's a great starting point. It's a great starting point. If that's the time that you have, great starting point. Just as I have changed and my time has freed up a little bit, just try to dig in a little bit deeper. And then, and if you are a cat that can never really have the time, what I tell young athletes and young players is partner with an organization that is creating that atmosphere that you want, right? That is doing the work, and either you volunteer mainly with that one organization locally, or that's who you're giving your money to in order to help them facilitate that environment that we want to create, right? Because we all don't have time to do it. And so that's the best way I tell, especially young athletes trying to get into it, trying to figure out who they want to be and how they want to impact the community is go that route. And I would challenge anybody, to do that,
Absolutely.
Figure out what you're passionate about. There's a ton of organizations out there that are dying for volunteers and help, and just help be a part of the solution versus just talking about it and tweeting about it, on social media.
Absolutely, man. Hey, well, I'm going to put this challenge out to you, man. Like, I'm in LA. I'm in Hawaii right now.
Yeah.
But when you put something on, man, I'll fly out there on my own dime.
All right.
There needs to be people who you need to facilitate conversations in terms of academic achievement. This is what I do. It's what I'm passionate about. So that's my challenge to you. If you need me to man a registration table, bro, I'm there. I got family out there. I'll stay at their crib. Don't trip.
All right.
It'll be good.
I'll be hitting you up then. We got a couple of things in the works in the pipeline, so I'll definitely be hitting you up. For sure.
Well, man, cool. Transitioning post-NFL career. In terms of preparing for it, you had a lot of time. You had 15 years.
Right.
What were some things that you did beforehand to sort of get ready?
Yeah, so the NFL has a ton of resources available, NFLPA resources. So I did several certification classes. Like I went to a class about how do you negotiate, a real estate class, and you go into some of the top universities in the country doing this, learning from some of these top professors, whether it was Penn State. We went to Bowling Green one year for some broadcasting analysis workshops. So I was always doing that. And then I was trying to intern and work in fields just to see what I like, right? I always tell people, figuring out what you don't like is just as important as figuring out what you do like. It just helps you along the way. So I worked at a dealership one year. I can't stand sales. If you want me to ever try to sell somebody on something, it's just not me. I can't do it. It's hard. It's hard for me to try to sell somebody. So either you want it or you don't, right? And that's not my field. So I've tried a lot of things like that. Obviously, I've done my foundation, which is like running a small business. I've done Pilates studios. We own a studio with another one of my teammates. Man, what else did we get into? And then I would do broadcasting, right? Whatever team and market I was in, I would always, hey, can I come on the radio and, talk?
That's big.
15, 20 minutes. And so I built those relationships while I was playing and getting to talk to people, going out to all the dinners and sponsorships things. And so getting to talk and meet people, shake hands. And so they got to know me as, the entryway was that I was a football player. But then I got to know them past that. Like some of those guys, I would say, hey, man, let's go play golf. Let's go hang out.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot of great relationships that way. And so when I was done playing ball, they saw me as a man. They saw me as a dad. They saw who I was in the community. And so those relationships continue to carry on because it wasn't based on me being a football player.
Yeah.
And so as I tell people now, as I walked away from the game, I had a lot of opportunity, you know, whether it was coaching, doing media. Obviously, the pandemic slowed it down a little bit, but a couple of other organizations want me to come on and, you know, be a director or a manager of a department. And it, you know, so I had a lot of opportunity, but I think a lot of guys just don't take the time. Well, first, you don't know when your last day is. And so sometimes you just complacent and don't take care of it. So again, when you're at school and your school puts on these job fairs, or there's a networking opportunity, or I don't care if it's with the school, something that you don't even care about. I don't know, sociology. Maybe you're a business major. I don't know. Go to it, right? Because you want to meet and get to know people in different genres and different spaces, because that's how this world works, right? And we always hear about it. It's not who you know, or it's not what you know, it's who you know. Yeah. And we may not like that feeling, right? Because especially as a Black man, there's not a lot of people in my community that I would naturally know that are in those positions, right? But so I have to extend myself and make myself uncomfortable sometimes and put myself in those spaces, so I can get to know people that have those thoughts. And then once I'm in, then it's different, right? Then people you bring in, you know. So I would encourage you to do that, because I know for a lot of kids, inner city kids, it's uncomfortable. You may not know how to network or socialize, but hey, that's why my man David is here, dropping knowledge on you guys of questions, how to carry a conversation, maybe how to dress properly, right? Because a lot of it's just fear of rejection, where you get into a room and you share your personality, you show up, you know, with a polo shirt on and talk. People are people at the end of the day. Don't allow their position and their title to intimidate you, because that's oftentimes what it is, right? Ooh, that dude is the CEO of Bank of America. I can't approach him because I'm little old me from East Oakland. Nah, the dude is a man. It's another man. It's another person. You share your story, ask them their name, you know, how they're doing, what's going on, you know, just the general having the conversations, and get to meet people, share who you are with them. And those how the relationships start, and you build, you get to know different people, and then it's a much easier transition when you get away from the game, because now your identity should never be in the game from a personal perspective, but also from their point of view, your identity just isn't about ball either, right? Yeah. A lot of people just, he's just a football player. Yeah, I mean, he just, what is he going, you know, how's he going to help our company? But unless they know who you are and your passions and what you like to do, and you share about what you may be doing in school, but like, okay, that brother got something to him, or that sister got something to him. I may want him to intern with me now, right? Yeah. And then when you're done with school, maybe you don't have the opportunity to play professionally, you can call him up. Hey, what's going on? Hey, I would love to get an internship or whatever. And then that's how things start. But unless we put ourselves in that space, we gonna feel like we getting rejected. But they don't know you. Would you hire somebody you really don't know? You know, it's just, that's how life is. And so it's not always, you know, I think a lot of times we put that excuse out. It's about, I'm Black. That's some of it that's in there, but that's not all the time of it. I think a lot of times it's allowing people to know, letting them know who you are. Yeah. To break a lot of those walls down, because they don't know. They grew up in their own neighborhood. They don't know until they know, and you have to be sometimes that bridge and be the first one to walk forward. So I would encourage you to do that. Put yourselves in uncomfortable situations. We saw my man Emmanuel Acho do it, right? Uncomfortable conversations with a Black man, and now the dude is everywhere. I'm like, that man do everywhere. He stepped out on faith, put himself in an uncomfortable situation, and now he is everywhere. So you have to do that in order to grow, right? Diamonds aren't created without pressure. So you have to put yourself in those uncomfortable situations, feel a little pressure, right? The same way we strain and lift weights, right? Same time we run and we run these 110s, right? You're tired, it's pressure. But then you're able to go out there and perform on the football field. So we can't keep it in a box. We got to do it socially. We got to do it academically well, so we can grow and expand. And then we have options as we have developed into this diamond. And now everybody, hey, he got great value. She got great value. Oh, I want to pay, you know, that, and that's how we do it. Yeah. But you have to be uncomfortable. You have to be okay with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, you hit something on the nail, man, when you mentioned the fact that, like, especially males of color, particularly African-American males, like, there's that sense of, like, being vulnerable. Yeah. And it's not a comfortable feeling for us.
Right. No, it's not. Right.
But in today's society, in order to get somewhere, especially if you're like you or I were the first generation, or if your first time in a corporate environment, you've got to ask for help. It's so important to ask for a mentor, to get mentors in different areas. I'm sure you've done that along your road. I mean, man, Bill's Mafia got so much love for you, bro. You could be the mayor of that.
Yeah, Bill's Mafia is nothing like them, man. I love Bill's Mafia. They took me in and treated me like I played there my whole career. I was only there for 4 years, but it was an awesome experience. Great fan base. But you know, again, like you said, it was mentors. They got to see, like, I'm not a finished product, but as far as my career, they got to see the end version of who I was, and that was from hanging with guys like Kyle Williams and London Fletcher and Larry Fitzgerald, Carlson Palmer, you know, Steve Smith when I was in Carolina, Brinson Buckner. It's just a ton of Chris Draft. It's a ton of dudes, great dudes that I came up contact with and just took a little bit, you know, made it my own, take a little bit. Okay, I like the way they do that. Okay, this is a great man, great father, doing great stuff in the community. And you just continue to add to yourself, right? And so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just take what people you see doing impactful and make it your own, obviously unique to who you are as a person, and then run with it. So that mentor piece is key, though, because if you don't know, I mean, you got, like you said, you got to ask somebody. You got to build a relationship, be vulnerable. It's okay. It's okay to not know, because why should you know? You've never been in that space before.
Exactly. Man, heading into the fourth quarter of this IG Live, man, what are some, I would like to call the Alexander commandments for academic success? What would they be, you know, for you, for young people, youth and high school student athletes, even collegiate student athletes? You know, what would your commandments be? Doesn't have to be a lot, but if you could give some.
I think we talked about a lot of them. I mean, just overall, I mean, first is you have to have a work ethic, right? You have to be able to put the work in whatever it is, because things aren't easy, and you have to be able to grind to a certain extent. Number two is humility, right? Understanding that you don't know everything, and that you are always you should be in a constant mindset of growing, right? And I don't care if you are 50 or you 7, right? You should always be humble enough to be willing to allow somebody to speak into your life, and for you to be hungry for some more knowledge and a different perspective, because it may give you a better understanding. And I'll tell you what I mean by humility, just in a football sense. I get these massages all the time, and back in the day, it was like this spot called Massage Envy. They're still around, but and so in those places, you're going to get a variety of massage therapists that have different abilities. I used to try to find the best one, but like anything, the best is always booked up. If you don't get them in advance, you're going to be stuck with somebody that's not quite up to par, right? And so I had that experience where this dude was giving me a massage. He wasn't good. And doing the massage, he was like, hey, your hamstrings is tight. But because I validated him by how qualified I thought he was, like, man, this dude don't know what he's doing. He can't even give me a massage right. Fast forward, in the week of practice or the game, I ended up pulling my hamstrings. Where the dude told me a couple of days before, like, your hamstring is tight, right? And so I say that, be humble. The information can come from anywhere. You know, age doesn't qualify you. Your degrees and all that doesn't qualify you for somebody to allow them to be able to speak into your life, right? I just had a young man told me he would bench me because I was an 86 in Madden, right? He was validating me by my Madden score, right? So don't do that either. If somebody shows up to speak to you that has had the privilege of playing in one of the sports where they give Madden scores out, don't try to qualify their expertise based on their Madden or MLB or 2K score, okay? That doesn't qualify you. Be humble, listen. I guarantee you're going to learn something from their experience. And then lastly, I would say you have to build great, fruitful relationships, right? None of us have accomplished anything, achieved anything without having great people in our lives, from peers to coaches to parents. And I know for some of us, it's not going to look traditional. I didn't have a traditional mom and dad at the house. But it can come in a variety of different ways. And so be open to that. And as hard as sometimes it can be traumatic, or it is traumatic, not to have a dad or a mom like you want. Don't allow that don't have your guard up, or don't block your blessings from other relationships for people to come in to help you, right? Because sometimes we can do that because it's not ideal. It's not what we want. But God is actually sending you somebody to help you get to where you want to be. And so those are my probably my three things. You got to have that hard work, got to be humble, and then you got to build great relationships.
Well stated. Well stated. Overtime section. A few, questions thrown out your way. Don't have to be a long explanation. If you knew that you could never fail at anything, what would you try to help improve or try to change?
Probably the social economic gap.
Got it. Excellent. An outside hobby or passion that might not everybody know about you that you have.
Passion that nobody would know about. I like old school cars. I mean, we'll go to Bear Jackson out here in Scottsdale. Now that I'm not playing anymore, my one of my goals is to go down to Hot August nights in Vegas. Eventually, I got an old school. I got a '66 Mustang, so I want to do that with the boys one of these days.
That's what's up. Favorite teammate? I know this might be hard, but you gotta give me that smoke. Who was your number one?
I'm gonna go with London Fletcher. He had the biggest impact on my life as a man and as a player. Getting to see him, I was going through that transition that we talked about earlier from D tackle to linebacker. He was the linebacker there. Got to learn a lot from him, from how to play the game. And then we used to drive to the games every week together. So to the hotel was like an hour and a half drive, and then to the stadium was like another 20, 30 minutes. And so I got to learn a lot from him, just his life, things he overcame, and just how to be a better dad, how to be a better husband from him.
Got it. Okay. Friday night, dinner at the best steakhouse in Arizona, somewhere where you're at Arizona.
Yeah.
Dead or alive, who would you invite?
Jesus.
Okay. I was going to say that, but that's fine. I'll let you slide. When it's all said and done, when people mention your name, talk about your name, Lorenzo Alexander, how do you want to be remembered?
As a servant. I led and I was a servant.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Awesome. For folks that want to get a hold of you, where can they reach you? What are your social media handles?
Well, you can find the foundation, lorenzoalexander.org. Find out what we're doing in the community there. Always can contact me through that avenue. On Twitter, it's at @OneManGang97. Instagram is Lorenzo_John. And those are the three top spaces that I'm normally in. Excellent.
And then this is the last section of the interview in terms of this is your Oscar or your Grammy moment. They've called your name. You're walking up the stage. You pull out your note card.
Yeah.
Who do you have to thank? Who do you have to give roses to? What organizations you need to shout out?
Right.
This is your time. The mic is yours.
Yeah, I think we talked about it. I mean, obviously God first, just the people that he's put in my life and helped position me, from my mom, have the type of heart she had, my Uncle Steve, sacrificing so much to give to me. And then my countless teammates and coaches along the way that took the time to just bring me up and raise me and teach me the game, that allowed me to have the ability to obviously provide for my family for a long time. And now to be in the space to where I don't have to work. I can spend time with them and really pour into them and be with them. Which all really leads back to, my beautiful wife, Majanique, and the sacrifices she laid down for me day in and day out, traveling to 5 different cities throughout our marriage, and the multiple homes that she had to move, and all the stuff that she had to do, birth our kids. And so those are the top people. And so I appreciate everybody. And there's so many other countless people, that from massage therapists to trainers, that helped me be able to play a game at 36 and keep it tight and still be able to go out there and play at a high level. So I appreciate everybody there. And then obviously the fans. I'll give a special shout out to Bills Mafia, because they were not only passionate about what I was able to do on the field, but they also always came out, packed houses when we had fundraisers, people coming out to volunteer. There was never a shortage of people that was willing to give back and help me impact the community in a positive way. So I appreciate you guys for that.
Man, well, that's what's up, man. As I said before, I appreciate your time. I know it's valuable. I know you got a family, this, that, and the other. I want to basically throw that challenge your way again. You got to let me know, man. I'll fly my way out there to Arizona to help out, to do whatever you need me to do. It's important. The cool part about it is it's one of those things to where if it's somebody like yourself that has a name, people are more receptive.
Right.
People are more receptive. I could go to local high schools in Oakland and Los Angeles and say, here's what I want to talk to your kids about. And I know you don't have this, but because I don't have a book and because I haven't played in the NFL career, I'll get, oh, well, we don't.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, I get you. And young people that see this, don't do that. You don't have to be in the league. You don't have to have a master's or a doctorate to be validated.
Yeah.
And be able to give back and share your own experiences, because somebody's trying to help you, just trying to streamline your growth, right? So please remember that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time, man. Blessings to you and your family. Eventually, man, when you come out to LA, I eventually want to, connect with you at some point because, man, I love your energy. I love your vibe. So,
all right, appreciate it. Yeah, we'll get together, D, for sure.
Take care, brother.
All right.
All right. There you have it, folks. There you have it. Former NFL 15-year veteran Lorenzo Alexander talked about his story growing up in Oakland, California, talked about his experiences of being a student athlete in high school and college, his NFL experience, his post-NFL career playing experience. Man, has a hell of a story, and look out for, some content that's going to be thrown out his way. So thank you all so much. Next week, we have a special guest. We have UCLA tennis player, Miss Abby Forbes. She is a phenomenal student athlete at UCLA. She's going to be talking about her story. She was the Pac-12 Women's Tennis Player of the Year. Phenomenal team tennis, individual tennis player. So we're really excited about that. Abby Forbes next week. Every Wednesday, we're here at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Every Wednesday, all right? Same time, same handle. So we really appreciate you tuning in. You can always reach me. Instagram at David Watts Consulting. Twitter at DWC Info. Facebook, David Watts Consulting. LinkedIn, David Watts Consulting. Even TikTok at David Watts Consulting. So our goal is to inform, inspire, and motivate young student athletes, all right? And even help parents, help coaches, help school administrators bridge that gap to help our student athletes become more competitive in the classroom and in their social life. So once again, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate your viewership, whether you viewed it live or you view it later. Always remember, student first, athlete second. Aloha.